Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. A political earthquake went off on Morning Joe this morning when former Speaker Nancy Pelosi put a political shiv in President Biden, refusing to come out strongly in support of him, frankly, refusing to answer whether he should stay in the race. However, there was something even more noteworthy, frankly, I think scandalous, where Dr. Mika Brzezinski, she thinks she's a doctor apparently, got into an argument with a leading cancer doctor who had the temerity to point out that Biden is slipping cognitively. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, play most of this. We'll stop and start, but I have not seen this level of gaslighting and Democratic Party Biden sycophancy possibly ever. Buckle up. It's a rocky one, but it'll be worth it. They're about to have Dr. Zeke Emanuel on.
One doctor is saying age is not the issue. Former Obama White House advisor for health policy, vice provost for global initiatives at the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Zeke Emanuel, has a new article for The Atlantic entitled, "There Are Exceptionally Sharp Octogenarians. Biden Isn't One." He writes in part, quote, "The White House and the Biden campaign have suggested that the president's problems at the debate stemmed from an exhausting travel schedule and a cold. Such explanations do not inspire confidence. Yes, it's common for elderly people to bounce back more slowly from stressors. But even if jet lag and illness exacerbated normal cognitive limitations, said limitations remain, ready to surface again. And who knows when the next life and death decision will need to be made. Crises don't wait patiently for presidents to be fully prepared. Someone whose cognitive competencies can be compromised as badly as Biden's were by routine travel and a mere cold may be able to live a normal life, but they'd be hard-pressed to endure the rigors of negotiating with Congress or a foreign leader, much less making multiple rapid decisions when some future domestic or global disaster emerges." And I should point out that President Biden is right now at the NATO summit hosting it.
So before we get back to this, let's point out this is not just like some advisor. This guy is capital C corporate Democrat. He wrote Obamacare. He was an advisor to Obama, and he basically wrote Obamacare. He was on Biden's task force. After Biden was elected president, he was on Biden's COVID task force. He has been advisor to many Democratic presidents. He's a leading cancer doctor, a renowned oncologist, Harvard educated. Infamously wrote years ago that he wants to die at 75, which, whatever. This guy is pretty beloved in Democratic Party circles until he spoke out against President Biden. Wait for Mika. She ain't happy. She ain't happy with the good doctor.
Zeke, wouldn't we have seen more for what you were saying? More issues, wouldn't they have come out in the past? Some people are saying that maybe there was some hiding going on.
Yes, there was some hiding by you. MSNBC, Morning Joe, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post. Here's like 30 seconds. Just best hits 2020 and beyond.
Want to nominate a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, a proud Democrat, an Obama Democrat.
Anyway.
We want to expand pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, millions of pre-K students.
Because they invaded another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea.
Right.
He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault.
Okay, so we've established there was a lot of hiding, and the signs were out there. Back to Mika Brzezinski's gaslighting.
Yeah, I think that's been suggested. Joe Biden's had fewer spontaneous interactions than other presidents, much fewer. You talk to people who've been around the president, and for several months, if not for a year, there has been a noticeable shift from the mental agility, the acuity, the good give and take, and the perceptive questions to after the summer of 2023, where that's declined. And we should say this is normal aging. And doesn't have to be any disease here. This is what happens as people age, and their fluid intelligence, their ability to problem solve, their verbal fluency declines.
So, sorry, good doctor. I know you're a leading cancer doctor, but I'm not an expert. But Bernie Sanders is a year older than President Biden. I mean, I'm sure he forgets where his keys are from time to time, but he's finishing sentences. He's able to articulate during interviews. He goes around the country doing events. So I don't know if this is normal aging when you can't finish sentences, you completely lose your train of thought, can't carry it back, your face freezes. I'd have to beg to differ. But let's continue, because here Mika Brzezinski is going to gaslight and argue with the good doctor.
Over the past 6 months, he attended the G7 summit in Italy. He traveled to Normandy to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day at a rousing speech there. He delivered the commencement address at Morehouse College in Georgia. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv. He also traveled to Israel for a war cabinet meeting October 7th. He visited Baltimore to survey the damage of the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge. He visited the site of the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment. He went to the southern border to make a push for a bipartisan border deal, which the Republicans turned down, or actually Trump did. But he had a deal that they never would have had an opportunity to get, but he put it out there, which was politically smart of him. Just yesterday, he hosted NATO. Of course, we know he's taking the press conference tomorrow. He's made stops in 21 states for both presidential duties and campaign events. So, I mean, this is aging.
Yeah, those are the rigors. Those are the rigors of a normal presidency in the 21st century. Let's be clear. And let's be clear, Joe Biden's been a terrific president. You could go down the list, whether the American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure plan, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, trying to relieve students of debt, and managing 2 wars, I think, quite admirably. Those are the rigors. And many of those presentations and speeches and events have been with a teleprompter. We have seen him
Zeke,
at the State of the Union do great.
But I want to put this in context. Oh, boy.
Right. But Zeke, I want to put this in context. Those are the things Joe Biden is doing while he's aging. And so, too, Donald Trump is aging. Is he not? Look at his age. So if you're going to diagnose from afar, let me ask you, what do you think Donald Trump's sort of, would you consider him to be mentally fit to be president? Can I have your opinion on his brain?
Well, I'm not judging the brains, but I do think Trump has many of the problems of aging. He has an inability to concentrate. He meanders when he talks. He doesn't problem solve. He goes back to the same things over and over again. And his problem is he lies over and over blatantly. And that's even worse. This is a critical election, the most critical election in American history since the Civil War. And I think if you ask me now, I'm voting for Joe Biden. There's no question. The policies of Donald Trump are terrible. But this is also not the best options that the American public has. We're a country of 330 million people, and we have a lot of really talented people in the country.
But the funny part comes next. First of all, let's be clear. Mika Brzezinski is just listing what a president normally does of any age. I mean, that's what you sign up for. Very, very arduous travel across the globe, time zones. But she's leaving out. The Wall Street Journal just had a pretty thorough report that MSNBC and CNN mysteriously aren't mentioning. There's been a lot of issues during this president's, particularly the last year or two, during travel. At the G7, apparently he stood up the Chancellor of Germany. The German Chancellor, they accommodated Biden by having an earlier dinner. Biden didn't show up because he went to bed. There's been other issues where Anthony Blinken had to step in during a meeting with foreign leaders because Biden couldn't finish a thought. So he might be traveling, but he's not exactly traveling with a full deck. And I covered this yesterday. Watched that video from the Wall Street Journal's report. But after Dr. Zeke, again, Team Blue, wrote Obamacare, Mika Brzezinski had a doctor who says nothing's wrong with Biden on. She seemed to like that doctor a lot more. And interestingly enough, this is what Morning Joe decided to clip out. So this is the clip that Morning Joe posted on their Twitter. They didn't post anything from Dr. Zeke, basically saying Biden's too old, cognitively not all there. They posted this guy. We're going to play this clip and just watch the end and how Mika Brzezinski ends the segment. Who does she invite back on?
Gupta, what's your take on what has become really the story, the only story of the day, it seems, and that is Joe Biden's mental acuity? What do you make of the debate, and what do you make of his recovery from it?
Well, Mika, I thought you laid it out there really nicely, which is to say, I care for many octogenarians, and I would say from a cardiovascular standpoint, and what we've seen from a mental acuity standpoint. Take that last night. You mentioned it with the NATO summit. There's going to be days that are better. There's going to be days that are not as good. Cardiovascularly, he's in excellent shape. I'm a pulmonologist. I see this all the time in octogenarians. I think he's actually quite high functioning as an octogenarian and keeping up that schedule. And so, just from this is a subjective conversation. Zeke is offering his opinion. I can tell you what I see in my own clinic, and what I see clinically. I think Joe Biden is actually quite robust relative to what we see normal aging at 81. More broadly, what I would say is exactly to your point. We don't talk enough about his opponent. There are signs of forgetfulness, judgment issues. We saw that last night.
So basically, they brought on a pulmonologist, that's not exactly a brain doctor, to put out Mika's favorite talking points. This is just age, good days, bad days. But what happens if the bad days happen to come when shit's going crazy between Russia, Ukraine, Gaza, Somalia, Congo, protests in America, hurricanes, climate inferno, you name it. But look how Mika ended this segment. You really can't make this up.
As a country, as a broader media, because people can get help for their brain. And we need to be normalizing brain health, just like we talk about cardiovascular health. And I worry the impact that this dialogue is having, again, across the country on something that's critically important to people's aging.
So you're welcome back, good doctor, to talk about Donald Trump. Zeke, get the hell off the set. You might wonder, Jordan, why do you cover these Morning Joe clips? We know this. It is very important to show you why most voters, particularly older voters, are uninformed, misinformed, and vote against the broader population, including their own interests. Not all older voters, because we have a lot of older people in our audience who are quite with it and quite progressive and can, see through this BS. But this is why we keep getting establishment corporatist neoliberals or extreme conservatives, because people are being misinformed by Fox News or gaslit by MSNBC.